really felt them. The players I know fed off that, especially some of the younger guys feeling some of that support as being rookies, never having a practice quite like this with fans here. So really appreciate everybody coming out this week, today especially.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you, and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. It is 4 o'clock, and that means it's time for today's Top 4 at 4, where we break down 4 of the big stories that we're tracking in the Fox 35 newsroom this afternoon. And joining us for today's Top 4 at 4, Fox 35 news anchor and reporter Marlisa Goldsmith. And Marlisa, we appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, Garrett.
So our top story today is the Pulse site tours getting underway ahead of the 9th anniversary tomorrow.
Yeah, it's hard to believe that tomorrow marks 9 years since that tragic shooting happened at Pulse nightclub in the city of Orlando. And today, the city is facilitating private site visits to the temporary Pulse Memorial, where they're offering families of those 49 victims and survivors a chance to go into the building. Pulse victims and victims' families and survivors, they're going to be touring the building for the first time. It's expected to be a highly emotional experience, as I'm sure you can imagine. And they just arrived. The first group arrived about 20 minutes ago to the site there. And they should be going into the building at any moment now, Garrett.
Yeah, and we want to go ahead and check in now with Fox 35's Randy Hildreth, who is outside the building there. You can see the bus behind her. Let's go ahead and, Randy, good afternoon. We appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. What's going on out there now? We know the first group has arrived. Can you kind of walk us through what's happening?
Yeah, so I want to give you the lay of the land. So I'm standing in the media staging area, and right over my shoulder, this is where those families and survivors will be dropped off. As Marlisa mentioned, the first group of people who will tour this site have arrived. You see the bus here. They are transported from a nearby hotel. They have this privacy screen because, as you all discussed, today is expected to be a very emotional day. Could potentially be triggering for a lot of the survivors and families who are coming here. They are escorted off of the bus, and then there is a white tent right in front of the building. And in that area, I had a chance to step inside. There is a space where people can gather. It is a welcoming area, and they will be given a rundown of what things will look like, what they should expect when they enter the building. There are 2 doors that they will open and escort people inside. And so these are 30-minute tours, and I put an asterisk next to tours because the city emphasized that this is not a guided tour. There will be people in place, staffed inside to help people maneuver and walk through that space, but they are giving people the space and the opportunity to walk through this nightclub and process their grief. One of the city officials spoke earlier today and talked about what people can expect. Although this area has been cleaned up and cleared, there are still signs of that tragedy inside. There are still holes in the wall where people escaped. She says there are still places that have been pierced by bullets, so they will see those signs, and a trauma specialist will be inside. So if they have specific questions about where their loved one may have taken their last breath, they are able to help identify those areas. The equipment that had been in place in this building, 9 years ago has been removed. The chairs have been removed. So it's kind of an empty canvas on the inside. But that trauma specialist and the specialists who understand what it looked like then will be able to help these families fill in the details of what it looked like that night. And then after, again, I mentioned that there are 30-minute site visits. They will get back on this bus, and clergy members and trauma specialists are on the bus to be able to help people process what they have just seen, the emotions that are bubbling to the surface again as they head back to that host hotel, where again they will have an opportunity to process all of this. And the site visit today is important for those who have pushed the city for this moment. We know that this site is going to be torn down, and so there had been a lot of advocacy work to allow people to have this moment before this building is demolished.
All right, Fox 35's Randy Hildreth. We appreciate you joining us live from the Pulse nightclub site. As those Pulse site visits get underway, Randy, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
And Marlisa, I can only imagine, she was talking about kind of what having those resources, clergy, and others there, because you can only imagine the emotions of walking back, walking into that building for the first time, knowing what happened to your loved ones or whoever it may be. We also know that I think it was only about half of the families connected to these 49 victims kind of took them up on this opportunity. So I mean that tells you too, it's a difficult thing, and some people don't want that, but for some people this could be an important part of this process.
Yeah, especially when it comes to getting the closure that they need. And it's important to remember that this is happening before that structure is permanently removed for the permanent Pulse Memorial to be put in place, which is expected to happen later this year.
And we did hear this afternoon from Mayor Buddy Dyer, who spoke outside the building, and he talked about some of his emotions walking inside that building.
What it did for me is it took me back 9 years, and reflecting on being in the command center on Orange Avenue as all the things are transpiring, and eventually the shooting of the killer, and then the realization of just how many people were impacted. Our original count was way off from what it turned out to be. If you were here 9 years ago, you probably remember when I came out the second time and told everybody it's not 20, it's 49 victims. So that's the thing probably that is sharpest in my memory.
So tomorrow being the 9-year anniversary, those site visits will continue through Saturday, I believe.
Yeah.
Story number 2 today, we continue to follow up on this investigation into the alleged gambling ring, and this, centering around suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. We now know a third co-defendant has been arrested.
Yes. So officials say this third co-defendant, his name is Sheldon Weatherholt, 58 years old. He's been arrested on racketeering and conspiracy charges related to that illegal gambling operation that Garrett just mentioned, tied to suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. Weatherholt turned himself in early Wednesday at the Lake County Jail in Tavares on those charges. And this scheme involved a social club in Kissimmee, again, allegedly run by the sheriff there, and at least 4 others. There are 2 other co-defendants that have been previously arrested. You're looking at video right there of the first time we saw Sheriff Lopez facing a judge the morning after he was arrested. So I believe that was last Friday. Authorities, though, are still searching for the 4th co-defendant by the name of Ying Zhang. So we're still waiting to figure out where this person is, when they will be arrested or turn themselves in. Weatherholt appeared before a judge the same day, so that was today, and he's being held on a $100,000 bond, $50,000 for each count, according to records. And officials also noted that he had no prior criminal history.
It is proving to be a very interesting case. Still, digging into it as well, and learning more details. And I would imagine we should learn more details once that 4th co-defendant is arrested, and may be able to unseal some more court documents that may kind of paint even more of a picture. Because right now it's kind of piecing together as more of these suspects, these co-defendants, are arrested, and so it's just interesting to uncover, but just a lot of complex pieces.
A lot, and our colleague Marie Ettinger, she's been doing a fantastic job digging through all of the court documents. There have been hundreds of pages, Garrett, that she's been combing through, not only going through those documents, but painting a picture of who these people are. But what a lot of people are intrigued by is still trying to figure out what the connection is between these co-defendants and the sheriff. There seems, for us regular folk who don't have anything to do with the case, it seems like there is no connection per se to all of them in figuring out what their relation was. Have they ever worked together? How do they know each other? So I think it'll take more time and more documents to be revealed for us to figure out the connection of how they all intertwine and work in this case.
Still many more questions, and we will check in with Fox 35's Marie Ettinger at the bottom of the hour here on Fox 35 News Plus as well, to see what all she has gleaned from the documents today. I'm sure a lot of interesting things there. Following up on a story now with 2 people arrested in connection with a deadly shooting here in Seminole County.
Yeah, so this shooting happened on Monday. If you all were following the news that day, deputies responded to a residence on Forest Lake Drive in Altamont Springs regarding a reported shooting. Well, 2 people again have been arrested in connection to that shooting, and the suspects are 18-year-old Tristan Tully Bennett and 24-year-old Natalia Precious Voltaire. That's their mugshots right there. They were identified through witness statements and digital evidence, according to law enforcement. Deputies confirmed that the suspects knew the victim, and the incident was not believed to be random. But investigators learned that both of these 2 people visited the victim's home under the pretense of helping clean. Once they got inside, they tried to steal guns, officials told us, and during the confrontation, Voltaire allegedly shot the victim. The pair then fled in a white Chevrolet Camaro, and they've been charged with first-degree murder, robbery with a firearm, and grand theft of a firearm. These suspects were then booked into the Polk Correctional Facility, and they're being held without bond at this time.
All right, and finally today, an abrupt shutdown of an airline that is based out of Florida.
Yeah, so Florida-based Silver Airways, they canceled all flights. They told passengers, don't even show up to the airport because all the operations have been shut down as of today. They let the public know in a statement that they posted on their website. You're looking at an alert right here from the airline. And this airline was based in Hollywood, Florida. They had a hub in Tampa, and it filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy back in December of 2024. At the time, Silver Airways, they promised to continue normal operations, but then some flights were abruptly canceled, dating back to as early as March of this year. So they did let people know who have made purchases that all credit card purchases should be refundable through your credit card company or travel agency. Again, there's the statement from the airline right there. But, you know, this is one of multiple airlines that we've seen do something like this, Garrett. So abrupt.
Very abrupt, especially if you're one of those people who had a flight and you just find out all of a sudden. It just seems like there has to be a better way. Like, I know, you know, in that statement, they said that they kind of sold to this other company and they decided not to continue the operations. But like, at some point, do you say like, okay, we're going to give a little bit of notice? I mean, it just seems crazy to say, oh, yeah, we know your bags are packed and you're getting ready to pull out of the driveway, but don't go to the airport because you're not going to have a flight that's taken off and no one's going to be at the
ticket counter.
At the ticket counter to check you in.
It's unbelievable. We've seen airlines in similar cases do this, and people don't find out until they get to the ticket counter and see that there are no employees here. So I don't know. There have to be some sort of regulations or something. You would think that there's something already in place.
No, you would think, but clearly not. I mean, this, I believe, is at the TPA in Tampa. So we know that Silver had previously stopped operating in Orlando, but as you mentioned, they've got that hub in Tampa, have a number of places in Florida that they were still operating. Keyword being were. You see, you know, obviously today that is no longer the case, but Now a lot of folks trying to figure out what to do next, you know, including folks who may be abroad, you know, in the Caribbean, trying to find a way home now.
I didn't even think about that.
So, yeah.
That's tough.
Well, that is today's Top 4 at 4. Marlisa, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Laurel Blanchard joins me now. And Laurel, good afternoon to you. We appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus. And we want to start today by talking a little bit more about hurricane season. I know we are, a little over a week in, almost 2 weeks in now, and thankfully haven't seen much activity, but got a little bit of a refinement on a forecast today.
Yeah, Garrett, lots of weather headlines, especially when it comes to hurricane season. Right now, again, we're about 2 weeks into hurricane season. Hurricane season started on June 1st. Now that we're starting to get a little bit into it, there really hasn't been too much activity, and that's just because of the very hostile environment that the atmosphere is hosting, as well as that Saharan dust. But back in April, throwing it way back, Colorado State University actually issued their first seasonal outlook for the 2025 hurricane season, and this gets updated a couple of times through hurricane season before it officially wraps up on November 30th. So today was one of those updates that were released, and Colorado State University not changing their outlook from what they predicted back in April. Take a look. Normally, on average, we see about 14 named storms, 7 hurricanes, 3 major hurricanes. Back on April 1st, Colorado State University was calling for 17 named storms for the 2025 hurricane season, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes, and they are sticking with those numbers for their June 11th update. So again, sticking with the same numbers, 17 named storms, 9 hurricanes, 4 major hurricanes, still expected for the 2025 hurricane season. And there's a couple of factors of why they're keeping it those same numbers and not choosing to make it a little bit more busy or less busy, is because those water temperatures, especially across the Atlantic, are still above average. But the good news is that you'll notice when we show you the numbers from 2024, it is still a little bit above average, but it wasn't as busy as the numbers that they were predicting from 2024. So that's still consistent with this newest update. Also, we're seeing those very warm ocean waters in the Atlantic, and that's something that we're still monitoring, especially in the Gulf, as we take a look at the first month, because right in June, the Gulf is a sweet spot for that hurricane formation during this time of year. Also, one thing to note is that there could be a chance for an above average U.S. landfall by a major hurricane. And that's when I take you to those percentages. Again, these are still all the same from the report back in April. This is just an update. So if there was anything changed or tweaked, this is where then it would be released. But back in April and now on June 11th, they're calling for a 26% chance of an East Coast major landfalling hurricane, which usually is about 21%. So about 5% more of a chance that we could get hit with a major hurricane, and also a 33% chance of seeing a major hurricane landfall along the Gulf Coast, ultimately adding to a 51% chance of a major hurricane making some sort of East Coast landfall. So again, all of these numbers are still consistent from what they were calling for back in April versus what they are still calling for today. But this is ultimately a very reliable forecast, and that's something that I really want to stress, because as we take a look, this is their forecast back from 2024. Their April forecast called for 23 named storms, 12 hurricanes, 6 major hurricanes. And this was the busiest forecast that Colorado State University has ever released since they've started actually producing these seasonal forecasts. And from the 2024 season, they were right on the money. They called for 18 named storms, or there were eventually 18 named storms, 11 hurricanes, 6 major hurricanes. So that was a verified and accurate forecast for Colorado State University last year. So they did very well on that. So when is the next one actually going to be released? They released their June 11th forecast, and their next one, their update to their seasonal forecast, their next one is going to be released on July 9th.
So no updates today. That tells us that, pretty confident in what they forecasted so far.
Yeah, and that's actually a really good sign. Not really seeing anything drastically changing. So that leads us to kind of have a better idea that there could still be a busy season compared to what we normally see. However, not as busy as last year, which is a little bit of a better sign if you're looking at it from the glass half full. But ultimately, it just takes one storm, so we're going to be focusing in on the tropics. However, this gives us a good guideline of what we could expect over the next couple of months, especially as we get closer to the peak coming up in September. But really, it's been quiet for the first 2 weeks of hurricane season. Garrett, you already mentioned that. But when could we possibly expect this first tropical storm name to pop up? And normally, on average, according to the National Hurricane Center, is when we could see that first A name start to come up is about June 20th. And again, we're starting to see that Saharan dust slowly fade off in the atmosphere. So we may see our first name storm of the season, which is Andrea, come up in the next couple of weeks. So we're going to be watching that very carefully.
All right. Also watching that radar, because we know there is a chance for storms this evening, although a little bit different than what we saw yesterday.
A little bit different than what we saw yesterday. Yesterday, we not only had the sea breezes, but we had a powerful cold front sweeping all of those thunderstorms across the region. So quite literally, all of those storms just completely exploded right over I-4 in downtown Orlando yesterday. I got caught in it. It was not very fun. The lightning was crazy. I don't think I've ever seen that much lightning ever in just one spot. But overall today, we're starting to see those sea breezes collide. It's a little bit west of downtown as opposed to directly over downtown. We're going to keep watching these because, again, these thunderstorms going to be pretty widespread as we take a look ahead a little bit later on this evening, but fizzling out as we head through the overnight tonight. So taking a look at the Fox model, slowly seeing those storms, instead of raining themselves out right over Orlando, they're actually going to be pushed off the west coast as we head through the rest of the evening, fizzling out as we head through the overnight tonight. And then as we take a look at your Thursday morning commute, partly cloudy skies, couple of storms picking up, but it's not going to be as widespread as we saw yesterday and today. So that's the good news right there. Actually going to be seeing those rain chances start to mellow out a little bit as we head into the weekend. So it looks like a lot of more scattered storms on tap for your Thursday, and then continuing as we take a look at your Friday and through the weekend as well. So if you do have any outdoor plans, you may just have to bring that light rain jacket or that umbrella just in case, because we are going to be still seeing a couple of storms, but nothing as widespread as what we've been seeing for the past couple of days. So that's the good news right there. And for your 7-day forecast, again, really just keeping an eye on those more scattered storms as we take a look ahead to the weekend. Little bit of more of a pickup with those afternoon and evening storms, taking a look ahead into next week.
Yeah, not too bad for that a Father's Day forecast on Sunday either, for anyone with outdoor plans to celebrate.
I was going to say, I know my dad will already be firing up the grill for sure, so I think he's going to like this forecast.
Yeah, that's a pretty nice grill and forecast. Fox 35 Storm Team Meteorologist Laurel Blanchard, we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. Earlier this afternoon, Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey announced the arrests of 2 people accused of starving their dog to death at their home in Titusville. They are charged now with unlawful confinement without sufficient food, water, or exercise, and aggravated felony animal cruelty. Here's Sheriff Ivey on those arrests.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sheriff Wayne Ivey of the Brevard County Sheriff's Office, and unfortunately, here I stand again in the Sally Port at the Brevard County Jail, about to walk 2 sorry individuals into our jail for animal abuse and animal cruelty. You know, I don't get it. We tell people if you harm an animal in Brevard County, your butt is going straight to jail. And here we are standing here again because these 2 sorry individuals couldn't feed their dog. Now, let me take that back. It wasn't they couldn't feed their dog. They didn't feed their dog, because you'll be able to tell they didn't have any problem feeding themselves. So let me tell you what happened. On December 25th, our animal enforcement officer Bickford gets a call to go and check on the well-being of a dog, Nova, at their residence. When our animal enforcement and our partners at Titusville PD arrive, what they find is what you're seeing in the pictures we're putting on the screen. I'll pre-warn you, it is very graphic. This is the condition they found Nova in. Starved to death on the floor. Jasmine McGeehan and Michael Thompson Grin are the 2 people that had ownership of this dog and were tasked with taking care of this dog. In fact, had the honor of taking care of this dog and starved this dog to death. A necropsy report showed that there was nothing that caused this dog's death except nutrition. The dog was starved to death. They came up with this lame story that the dog wiggled out of their arms and hit its head and then started convulsing. Bull crap. They starved this dog to death, and a veterinarian demonstrated that and showed it in the necropsy report. Now, when Nova was first found by Bickford, it was in a bathtub, and it on a scale, on the Purina dog health scale, it was a 1.5 out of 9. That's what we were dealing with. So they starved this dog to death, didn't do anything to help it, said that the dog didn't eat well, and so they never took it to a vet. They never did anything. You know why? Because they're sorry bags of crap. Anybody that can do this to a helpless animal has only one place they deserve to be, and that is in the Brevard County Jail. In fact, they deserve to stay here. And as I've said before, I wish the law would allow me to treat them as they treated the dog, but it doesn't. It makes us take care of them. They're going to get fed, they're going to get health care and everything else while they're in this jail, and this poor dog starved to death. So as you can see in the graphic pictures we showed you, Nova succumbed to the nutrition issues that it was faced with, and our team, Animal Enforcement Officer Bickford, turned it over to Agent Helbig, who did a great job in putting this case together, getting all the evidence we need to lock them up. They're going to jail on 1 count of aggravated felony animal cruelty, 1 count of unlawful confinement without sufficient food, water, or exercise for the dog. Unfortunately, the judge only gave us a $3,500 bond for each of them. It ought to be $350 million, if you ask me, because anybody that's evil enough to allow a poor, helpless pet to starve to death deserves to sit and rot in jail. That's my feeling on it. I don't get to control that. I wish they would let me sentence them. Oh, I pray to God every night they let me do it, but they don't. I just get to be part of the team that arrests them. Thank you to our great team, Helbig, Bickford, Titusville PD, everybody that was involved in this, the veterinarian for the necropsy they did on it, all of them that did everything they could to bring justice for Nova. So now I get to do my part, and that is watch them be walked into the Brevard County jail and slam the door in their damn face. So let's go do it. Helbig, Hall, let's go. Cuffs too tight, they'll loosen up. They're new. This is my favorite part, getting to slam the door. Folks, as we say all the time, not all victims can dial 911. Unfortunately, Nova couldn't dial 911. Nobody could help this dog. This dog died because these 2 sorry individuals let it starve to death. So great job by our team. Again, I don't know how they deal with these cases all the time, but I'm truly, truly proud of them for the work they do.
It was Sheriff Ivy posting that video on social media, and I will note that we decided not to show you those graphic images of the dog having passed away under those circumstances. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Hey, welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon, live on Fox Local and on YouTube. Continuing to learn more about this case involving the alleged gambling ring and the multiple co-defendants in this case, alongside the suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. As we reported earlier, the third co-defendant in court today been granted a $100,000 bond. Joining us live now via Zoom is Fox 35's Marie Edinger. Marie, I know you've been doing a lot of digging into this, and what have you been able to learn today?
Sure. So the co-defendant who was just arrested, he turned himself in. His name is Sheldon Weatherholt, turned himself in late last night. He is facing a $100,000 bond. That's the same as another one of the co-defendants, Carol Cote. And the prosecutor said that she was requesting that amount specifically because he and Cote were the two who were involved allegedly in the day-to-day operations of the alleged illegal gambling ring. And she wanted their bonds to match. Neither of them, as well as the third co-defendant who's now been arrested, Sharon Frederick, none of them have to prove the source of their income or the source of the monies that they're using to pay for bail. The sheriff does have to do that. The other two co-defendants have been able to bond out. Weatherholt so far has not paid his $100,000 bond or the $10,000 bail that he would have to put down to a bail bondsman. We've been sitting outside the jail all day just keeping an eye on him, but so far, and I did just check the court record and the jail log a few seconds before logging on, looks like he is still in right now.
Marie, first of all, why the discrepancy? Do we know why the discrepancy between why some of these defendants are being required to kind of prove the finances and others aren't?
I asked Homeland Security and the Attorney General's office why they are not having to prove their sources of their income. I haven't heard back about that. It does seem a little bit odd to me. I'll give two examples of why it sticks out. One of them has to do with Sharon Frederick. She's the one who just wanted out a couple of days ago. She was given a higher bail amount, $300,000. She has this crazy criminal history, tons and tons of convictions for fraud and grand theft and conspiracy and all this stuff. She did 2 years in federal prison for lying to the IRS. She had just bonded out of jail in Orange County in March and then again in April. And now suddenly she's got $30,000 to put down to bond out for this criminal case. So paying all of that money, and again, just to emphasize, she has a $300,000 bond. That means that the $30,000 that she paid to a bail agent, she is not getting back. So she's got enough money to bail out of jail 3 times in 3 months, and they didn't ask the source of her income. That stands out to me. For this guy who we're talking about today, Weatherholt, he has been accused in the past of an association with an illegal gambling ring. I went down this crazy rabbit hole I'm going to tell you about in order to find all of this out. He's from Citrus County. His family is there. But he has a number of LLCs all over the state of Florida. A lot of them, or all of them from what I can tell, have to do with gaming and arcades and social clubs, as they're called. In one of them, a police chief actually accused him and sent a letter both to his arcade and to his home in Inverness saying that they believe that he is running an illegal gambling ring. They listed all the stuff he's going to have to do, all the stuff they think he has, including things relating to an illegal gambling operation. The police chief wound up meeting with him. I talked with that chief today, and he wound up closing the business. So the chief decided not to criminally prosecute him in that case, but that was in December of 2023. So this guy, who's been contacted before by law enforcement saying, we think you're involved in an illegal gambling ring, did not have to prove the source of his income in order to make bail. So I do want to talk about how I got to that other case of an illegal gambling ring. I looked up all of his business records. He has a bunch of LLCs, and the state prosecutor today actually said that he's the guy who was responsible for getting the LLCs and the business licenses for this alleged illegal gambling ring that the sheriff is allegedly involved in. I called a bunch of the people associated with the businesses from the past. So one of them turned out to be a CPA who had helped a guy with some paperwork back in the day. Her name, she does not know why, was still listed on some of that paperwork, even when they renewed a year later. So I called the business owner at the time. He said, no. I sold my business to this guy, Weatherholt. I never really met him. I know he just said, I know he's a white guy. They didn't really meet up. He said his business was failing. The CPA had told me that business was a convenience store. It turned out to actually be an arcade and a club. And the guy said, the previous business owner said, I think it closed down a couple of years later. It really wasn't making any money. So then I look into that. Turns out to be this alleged illegal business that the police chief went after Weatherholt for all these years later, and preceding this investigation.
Well, that's good old-fashioned reporting right there, Marie, being able to track all that down.
I had the best day in that rabbit hole. Found so much fun stuff. Some of that we might hope to see in the arrest affidavit for any of the 5 people total who were charged, Sheriff Lopez and his 4 co-defendants. We're not going to see that arrest affidavit until the 4th co-defendant gets arrested. Her name is Ying Zhang. She goes by the name Kate. And the circuit court says that they are waiting on her arrest until they release the affidavit. It's 255 pages long, apparently has a lot of details that the state prosecutor says is extremely incriminating and goes a long way to prove their case. That's what she claimed at Sheriff Lopez's hearing. She brought it up again today at Sheldon Weatherholt's hearing.
All right, it's going to be interesting to see. Can't wait to see that 255-page affidavit. I know you will be poring over that when we get it as well.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there.
All right. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger, we appreciate you joining us this afternoon on Fox 35 News Plus.
Anytime.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon. A federal judge has approved a settlement between the House and the NCAA, which opens the door to colleges directly paying players, student athletes. Schools now will have a max of $20.5 million to share with those athletes. And there are some qualifications here, including all those NIL deals over $600 do have to be approved, registered with an NIL clearinghouse called NIL Go from this auditing and accounting firm that will make sure everything kind of has a fair market value and make sure things are above board. I talked about it this afternoon on Florida Live with Christy Dosh, who is the founder of the Business of College Sports and a UF adjunct professor. Not to mention the author of The Athlete's NIL Playbook, The Complete Guide to Owning and Profiting from Your Name, Image, and Likeness, a book that was just published, and as I understand it, Christy published early because of all of this going on, so certainly a timely topic to be writing about.
Yeah, it has been interesting timing for this with the book, and I'm in Orlando at the NACDA convention, which is all of the athletic directors in Division I, and so we've all been here talking about this for days.
So a lot to talk about. First, just give me your reaction to the settlement and kind of what has come out from this, and what you think it may mean.
Yeah, we've known about the broad strokes of this settlement for months now. We were just waiting for the judge to give it final approval. It looks very much like we expected. There's $2.8 billion of back pay to previous student athletes and even some current student athletes who were active prior to the new NIL rules that went into effect in 2021. So that's one piece of it. And then you've got revenue sharing going forward. Like you mentioned, it's $20.5 million per team. They can decide where to be in that. You don't have to share the full 20.5. You can share less than that, but that's the ceiling. And you alluded to whether there are going to be future problems. That ceiling is a potential future problem, but the rest of it very much looked like we expected. The timing is a little different with the clearinghouse. I think folks believed they would have until July 1st for that to begin. And in fact, deals struck as of June 7th have to be entered into the clearinghouse. And I believe it just went live today. So that came a little earlier than expected.
When you talk about the clearinghouse, we've seen some reporting. I saw some reporting in The Athletic, some other places that some officials may have some doubts about how effective that whole kind of part of this process may be. What are you hearing and what do you think?
I've heard a lot of administrators here this week say, well, who's going to make sure that athletes disclose these deals? Because a lot of schools already had rules in place that athletes had to disclose their NIL deals directly to the school over the last 4 years. And they tell me that they think 5 to 20% of athletes actually turned in those disclosures. And so I decided to go to the athletes, and I texted about a dozen athletes yesterday, small sample size, but they're all at Power 4 institutions. They're all high earners. And I said, have you ever heard of NIL Go? And I didn't give them any other context. And none of them had any idea what I was talking about. When I said, hey, it's where you've got to disclose your deals over $600, one came back and told me that she had heard that that was going to happen. The rest are totally unaware of it. And so there's going to be a lot of education for athletes coming up this summer.
There's been a lot of talk over the past couple of years about the transfer portal, about transfers in college athletics. Does something like this, where you may effectively be able to have some contracts with these players, will that impact that? Will that slow down some of those moving parts in the transfer portal that we have seen the past few years?
It could. Schools could offer multi-year contracts and try to lock players in longer, but we haven't actually seen very many of those. I've seen quite a few revenue sharing contracts. I've been talking with other attorneys who are here this week about the ones they've seen. We have seen very, very few that are multi-year contracts, but that would be an option to try to lock players in. Would there still be ways for them to get around it? Potentially, you could have buyouts like you have in a coach's contract. So maybe that's what we'll see coming. This first year, I think, is going to be a little rocky as everybody figures out what works best.
The big money makers often are football and basketball. What does something like this mean for some of those other sports that maybe aren't that high profile, that aren't raking in that much cash?
We are seeing schools decide to share revenue with other sports, women's basketball. I know of some schools that are sharing with volleyball, softball. I've seen men's ice hockey at a school. So it's completely different from one school to the next. We certainly expect that the bulk of the money is going to go to football and men's basketball, which probably raises some Title IX lawsuit issues. And in fact, I just saw before we got on that we already have a case filed on a Title IX issue. So I would imagine there will be more of those coming. But I also think it'll be interesting to see there are roster limits that are part of this settlement as well. Many of those roster limits are below the average roster size that sports currently carry. And that's true even for football. So, for example, some football teams might have a roster last year that was 150 athletes. Well, they're now going to have a roster limit of 105. And so you actually, I think, might see talent disperse a little bit because the schools at the top aren't going to be able to hoard all the best players because of the new roster limits.
You mentioned some of the potential legal challenges. We're not done seeing this with this. This certainly isn't settled. What do you think? Where do you think things go with some of those challenges, whether it's Title IX, whether it's some other areas?
There are outstanding challenges that weren't solved by this lawsuit. This lawsuit settled 3 lawsuits that were outstanding, but there are others about antitrust, labor and employment law, Title IX, you name it. Those still exist, and more are going to continue to be filed, and potentially even filed about the settlement itself, whether it's Title IX or it's over the opportunities that are being taken away with the roster limits, issues with the cap itself. Even the judge in this case sort of looked at the antitrust issue with there being a cap and said that she didn't have enough information to decide if it was a problem. So she was going to go ahead and approve the settlement. But we could very quickly see a challenge to the cap itself. And people always say, but there's caps in professional sports. There are, but those are collectively bargained by the athletes because they're employees. And we don't have that in college sports.
Still very much shifting ground here. And so what's the main impact at this point right now for student athletes here in Florida?
Yeah, here in Florida, we now have high school at the NIL level. In fact, I was just meeting this morning with some folks who educate high school athletes here in Florida about their NIL and teach them personal branding earlier on so that by the time they get to college, they have that ability to earn on their NIL, because the revenue sharing is just one piece of this pie. We still have NIL, which started 4 years ago. It's still going strong. We see new brands come into this space every single day. And that is a place where we see Olympic athletes who maybe aren't going to be getting revenue sharing still earning significant sums of money from brand deals for social media. They make money on public speaking. I know an athlete who wrote a book who sold over 10,000 copies of her book. There are so many ways that athletes can monetize, and those aren't going away. They're only going to continue to grow.
What's next on this front that we should be watching for as things continue to evolve?
Oh, yeah. As we go into this first school year with revenue sharing, it'll be interesting to see how schools manage it. Who do they choose to give the money to? How much do they give here at the beginning versus waiting for the transfer portal to open? Because if you give it all here at the beginning, you've got to wait till July 1st of 2026 before the amount replenishes again, and you can go up to that ceiling once again. So cap management, as they're calling it, is going to be really key this first year.
We also expect Congress to potentially act on some of these issues as well. So who knows what kind of all that might bring.
I do not expect Congress to act. They have had a number of bills over the last 5 years related to NIL. Not a single one has ever made it out of committee. So I really do not expect anything on that front.
But still very interesting ground, very interesting topic, and we'll see where things go. It is a shifting landscape in college sports, and we'll see where things go from here. Breaking news here in the Fox 35 News Plus. Give you a live look outside the Pulse nightclub. This is where the site visits have been going on. The first group has come and gone. I believe awaiting a second group this evening as well. Randy Hildreth there getting ready for her live shot. We also have this shot up where we are have an opportunity for those folks to come and speak to the media if they so desire. Our understanding is that no one in that first group wanted to. But the breaking news here on Fox 35 News Plus this afternoon is that Governor Ron DeSantis ordering flags at half-staff for tomorrow in honor of Pulse Remembrance Day. I'm reading from this memo here from the governor directing as a mark of respect for the victims, their families, and the many affected by this tragedy, I hereby direct the flags of the United States and the state of Florida to be flown at half-staff at all local and state buildings, installations, and grounds throughout the state of Florida from sunrise to sunset on Thursday, June 12th, 2025. We'll be right back with more after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us today. The Jacksonville Jaguars let fans watch minicamp today. They've got a new head coach, got a new general manager, some new players on the roster, trying to turn around a disappointing season. We know it was a tough couple of years, really, for them the past couple of years. Hoping for Trevor Lawrence to play well. He's surrounded with by Travis Hunter, playmaker, who was drafted in this year's draft just a few weeks ago. We heard from him this afternoon. First-round pick Travis Hunter talked about adjusting to the NFL. We also heard from the team's defensive coordinator about getting his guys ready for the season, because earlier today, head coach Liam Cohen saying he likes what he's seeing from the defense. Let's take a listen, starting with Travis Hunter here.
Having fun?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What's been the most enjoyable part of being a Jaguar so far?
Just been able to come out here and just play with my brothers.
How's it been just for you to be able to actually get on the field, play defense, play offense? We've been able to do that during this time.
It's been great. I've been doing it my whole life, so nothing changed.
But just learning in an NFL way, just the differences maybe, or how it's been for you, just adapting.
Not really no difference. Just got to stay in the playbook and apply it to the field.
That Madden rating, 76.
Hey, that's a Madden rating. That's it.
Can you get it? How quickly can you get that thing up?
I'm not worried about Madden rating right now. I'm worried about playing football.
What was that fun to go with Ocho Cinco to go back and forth on that thing?
Yeah. It's always fun talking to Ocho.
Could he? You really think he could? Is there any chance that you couldn't cover, or that you couldn't cover him for?
I believe in myself, so I know I'll be able to cover him.
How has it been just covering Brian Thomas? Just what have you been able to see from him and maybe learn a little bit from him?
Just seeing how he go about his work. He helped me out a lot. Like I said the last time I came up here and talked. So just being able to take things from him and the money game and Parker game is just something that I can apply to my game and make me better.
And then for Brian specifically, what sort of makes him how good he is? Like
he's very smooth, no tendencies, and he got great hands.
Is that, I don't want to say difficult, but just while you're trying to adapt to being an NFL player, how has that been, just letting your personality shine through?
It's been very easy for me. You know, the guys come in and I bring the juice every day. I always got a smile on my face, making everyone laugh when I get the chance. So we just been fun, having fun, and just being kids out here just loving and living our dream.
We talked about you working with Coach Bennett. What's been working with Coach Marlisa so far?
Just going to work. That's all it's been. Me and him going to work, Coach Bennett going to work. We just been doing our thing.
In those periods where you, him, and Coach Perkins can kind of just walk through things together, how big can that be for you?
It's very big because, you know, I get a short little walkthrough before the walkthrough, so it get my mental right and ready to go.
To see all of these fans here, like you guys are just doing typical drills and they're cheering for you every time you touch the ball. What's that experience like?
It's very, very great experience. I know I can't let them down. I got to go out there and work, and I know they got my back.
Does buying a house make it feel more home than maybe before?
I ain't buy a house yet.
Okay. Did you look at 16 in one day? Is that?
Nah, it's not true.
16 to 9, you guys' way. Just those competitive periods. How much more does that draw out?
It's a lot of fun, I think, for the guys. I think it's good for us as coaches too. Just being in a competitive environment, calling it. Which, you know, Liam does an unbelievable job with that, creating competitive situations every day, and our guys have done a really good job responding to that. You know, just the culture of the team, everything about competing. So Liam's created that environment in practice every day, which is awesome.
Seeing Travis on defense, just what have you seen from him?
Yeah, he just has, you know, a wealth of talent, and he's a super intelligent guy, which makes it really fun. He's really quick on the uptake. You know, so he's a fun guy to coach, to be around. I know his position coaches love coaching him, you know, and it's pretty impressive to watch a guy do that. I think it's really, it's cool. It's been really fun. But I also think the coaches, Coach Milas, Drew Lascari, Anthony Perkins, and Bill Sheridan, those guys have done a great job of just getting him up to speed on everything. And, you know, he's done a great job responding to it.
Have you been surprised?
Going to be fun to watch Travis Hunter take the field, I can tell you that. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Fox 35 News Plus. We appreciate you joining us. We are here weekdays 11 a.m., 2 p.m., and 4 p.m. with Fox 35 News Plus and with Florida Live, streaming on Fox Local and on YouTube. We're going to go ahead and send you out to Studio B, though, for the start of Fox 35 News at 5, which begins in less than a minute right here on Fox Local and on Fox 35 as well. Fox 35's Esther Bauer going to have a story coming up in a little bit about the sewage leak in Palm Bay and also a chase and a crash on I-95. Meanwhile, Fox 35's Chris Lindsay following up on a house hit by lightning in Orla Vista and a scam arrest in Volusia County involving Bitcoin. He talked with the sheriff about that. We are also, of course, continuing to follow up on the Pulse site visits going on right now. Randy will be live in just moments, and Fox 35's Marie Ettinger live from outside the Lake County Jail as she continues to track the investigation into this alleged gambling ring centered around the suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez. So keep it right here. Fox 35 News starts in just seconds right here on Fox Local.
Right now on Fox 35 News at 5.
It's going to run the gamut of emotions.
Remembering Pulse 9 years later. For the first and last time, survivors will walk the nightclub.
There are bullet holes in the facility.
This is a killer, what they're doing.
A smelly problem stinking up Palm Bay. Raw sewage leaking into the water. Why the city says they can't clean it all up.
Yes, I will.
Another suspect taken down. This man accused of running an illegal gambling operation alongside a local sheriff.
Got a developing story right now. Suspended Osceola County Sheriff Marcos Lopez still in jail, but another one of his co-defendants could be released at any moment now. Jail records show that Sheldon Weatherholt's bond has been posted.
Weatherholt turned himself in last night at the Lake County Jail. The case stems from an alleged illegal gambling operation. Deputies are still searching for another person connected to the investigation. Thanks for joining us. I'm Marlisa Goldsmith.
And I'm John Brown. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger is live at the Tavares area outside of the jail today. So, Marie, what's the latest from there?
John and Marlisa, as you said, he has paid for that bond, so now we're just waiting for him to actually come out of the jail. This is Sheldon Weatherholt we're talking about, and although it's his first time behind bars, this is not his first time being accused of involvement with illegal gambling. A judge gave Sheldon K. Weatherholt II a $100,000 bond, the same as